Evelyn stood in front of the bathroom mirror, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her towel. She was about to take a shower after a long day at work, and the warm water was calling her name. The house was unusually quiet. Her mother had gone out for groceries, leaving her alone with her stepfather, Derek. He was in the living room, engrossed in a game on his console, or so she thought. Evelyn had always found Derek attractive. He was in his late 30s, fit and handsome, with dark hair that fell just right over his forehead. He was charming and funny, making her laugh more often than not. But it was their shared glances and fleeting touches that made her heart race and left her feeling conflicted. She never wanted to cross any boundaries, but a part of her craved more. As she turned the water on, steam began to fill the small bathroom, creating a cozy atmosphere. She stepped in, letting the hot water cascade over her body. The sensation was heavenly, washing away the stress of the day. Her thoughts drifted to Derek, and she couldn't help but wonder what he would think if he saw her like this, wet and vulnerable. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't hear the bathroom door open. Derek stepped inside, his brow raised in surprise. "Evelyn? I didn't know you were in here," he said, his voice a mix of shock and amusement. Evelyn froze, her heart racing. "Oh, Derek, I thought you were in the living room," she stammered, pulling the shower curtain tighter around herself. Derek chuckled, stepping closer. "I was, but I heard the water running. I thought I'd check if you needed anything." Evelyn felt heat rush to her cheeks, and a part of her was embarrassed, but another part was excited. "I'm fine. Just getting clean," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and watched her with an amused expression. "You know, you could have locked the door." "I didn't think I'd need to," she admitted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The air in the bathroom felt thick with tension, and she could feel his gaze on her. "Do you want some help?" he asked, his tone teasing but with an underlying seriousness that made her stomach flutter. Evelyn swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest. "Help? With what?" He stepped closer, leaning against the edge of the bathtub, his eyes never leaving hers. "You know, it's not every day a guy gets to see his stepdaughter in the shower. Just thought I could help you wash your hair or something." Evelyn bit her lip, the heat of his gaze sending shivers down her spine. Part of her wanted to push him away, but another part, the part that had been intrigued by him for so long, wanted to let him in. I don't think that's a good idea," she said, trying to sound firm, but her voice wavered. "Why not?" "We're both adults," he said, taking another step closer. "I won't tell anyone." Her heart raced at the thought of him in the bathroom with her, but the thrill of it was intoxicating. "Okay, maybe just my hair." Derek grinned, a mix of surprise and delight lighting up his face. He stepped into the shower, clothes and all, without hesitation. The water soaked through his shirt, accentuating his toned body. "See? No big deal," he said with a playful smile. Evelyn laughed nervously, trying to hide her excitement. "You're crazy." He grabbed the shampoo and squeezed a generous amount into his palm, then moved closer to her. "Just relax. I promise I'll be gentle." As he began massaging the shampoo into her hair, Evelyn closed her eyes, allowing herself to enjoy the sensation. His fingers were strong yet tender, and she felt herself leaning into his touch. "You have really nice hair," he complimented, his voice low and soothing. "Thanks," she murmured, feeling her cheeks flush. They stayed in comfortable silence for a moment, the warm water cascading over their bodies. Evelyn's heart raced as she felt his hands slide down to rinse her hair. She opened her eyes to find him looking at her intently, a spark of something unspoken hanging in the air between them. "Evelyn," he said softly, "I've been thinking about this moment for a long time." "What do you mean?" she asked, her breath hitching in her throat. "I mean, I've always found you attractive. More than just a stepdaughter," he confessed, his gaze piercing into hers. Evelyn's heart pounded. "Derek, I feel the same way," she admitted, the words tumbling out before she could stop herself. He stepped closer, their bodies almost touching, the steam wrapping around them like a fog. "Then why are we pretending this isn't happening?" Before she could respond, he leaned in, capturing her lips with his in a passionate kiss. It was soft at first, testing the waters, but quickly turned deeper and more urgent. Evelyn melted into him, her body responding instinctively to his touch as she wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. The kiss felt electric, sending shockwaves through her entire being. She had never felt anything like it before. Raw passion mixed with a sense of urgency. As they pulled apart, both gasping for air, the reality of the situation washed over them. "What are we doing?" Evelyn breathed, her heart racing. "I don't know, but I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed, his brow furrowed with concern. "This feels right." She searched his eyes, looking for any hint of doubt. Instead, she found desire reflected back at her. "Maybe it is," she whispered, feeling bold. With a newfound confidence, she pulled him in for another kiss, this one deeper and more passionate. Their lips moved together, the kiss growing more heated as they lost themselves in the moment. Evelyn could feel his hands wandering, exploring her waist, pulling her closer, their bodies pressing together under the cascading water. Just then, the bathroom door swung open, and they both froze, hearts racing as they turned to see her mother standing there, wide-eyed with shock. "What on earth is going on here?" she exclaimed, disbelief etched across her face. Evelyn's heart dropped, and she quickly pulled away from Derek, feeling a mix of embarrassment and fear. "Mom, Derek stepped back, hands raised in surrender. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered, panic evident in his voice. But her mother's gaze shifted between them, and then softened. "I think it's exactly what it looks like," she said quietly, a knowing expression crossing her face. Evelyn's stomach twisted in knots. "Mom, I can explain," she started, her voice trembling. But her mother raised a hand to silence her. "No, I think you both need to figure this out for yourselves." She stepped back, closing the door behind her and leaving them alone once more. Evelyn turned to Derek, her heart racing. "What do we do now?" Derek ran a hand through his wet hair, looking conflicted. "We can't just ignore this. We can't pretend it didn't happen." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. "But what if your brother finds out? Or my mom?" He stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let's take it one step at a time. Right now, we have to be honest with each other." Evelyn swallowed hard, feeling a mix of fear and excitement at the thought of exploring this new connection with him. "Okay," she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. The rest of their shower was filled with quiet moments of intimacy, each lingering touch igniting a fire within them. They knew they were crossing lines they shouldn't, but the thrill of it made them feel alive. As the water continued to cascade down, they shared stolen kisses, the reality of their situation fueling the heat between them. Once they finally stepped out of the shower, the air felt electric, and they both knew that this was only the beginning of something much more complicated and profound than either had anticipated. As they navigated this newfound connection, the days turned into weeks filled with secret glances and whispered conversations, each moment heightening their anticipation for what was to come. They began to explore their relationship outside of the confines of the bathroom, stealing kisses in the kitchen when her mother wasn't around, and lingering touches that sent shivers down their spines. But the more they tried to hide their feelings, the more difficult it became. One evening, while Evelyn was studying at the dining table, Derek walked in and leaned against the doorframe, watching her with a smile. "You look focused," he said, his voice teasing. She glanced up, feeling a flutter in her stomach. "Just trying to get this homework done before Mom gets back." "Need any help?" he offered, stepping closer. Evelyn shook her head, a smile tugging at her lips. "I think I can manage. Besides, I'm pretty sure you're not much help with calculus." He chuckled, moving closer until he was right beside her. "You'd be surprised at what I know." With a playful roll of her eyes, she nudged him away, but he caught her wrist, pulling her into him. "You're avoiding me," he said softly, a hint of seriousness creeping into his tone. "I'm not avoiding you," Evelyn protested, her heart racing as she felt his warm breath against her face. "I'm just trying to focus on my studies." Derek stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "You know that's not true. We both know there's something real between us, something we can't ignore." She felt a rush of emotions at his words, a mix of excitement and fear swirling within her. What if it's just a phase? What if it doesn't mean anything? Evelyn whispered, trying to convince herself. Derek cupped her cheek, tilting her head up to meet his gaze. "I don't believe that. We have something special, something more than just a passing moment. I feel it every time I'm with you." Evelyn felt her resolve start to crumble as she looked into his eyes. The way he held her gaze made her heart flutter, and she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. But what if someone finds out? What if my mom finds out? We'll figure it out together, he promised, leaning in closer until their lips were almost touching. But for now, let's just enjoy this. Let's not think about the consequences. Before she could respond, he closed the distance, capturing her lips in a tender kiss. It was soft at first, testing the waters, but quickly grew more passionate. Evelyn melted against him, wrapping her arms around his neck as she lost herself in the kiss. The world outside faded away, and all that mattered was the connection they shared. It felt as if time stood still, and for a moment, nothing else existed. As they pulled apart, both breathless, a mix of exhilaration and fear coursed through her veins. "See," he said, a playful smirk on his face. "Not so bad, right?" Evelyn laughed softly, her cheeks flushed with warmth. "Okay, maybe not." But just then, the sound of the front door opening interrupted them, and both of them froze. They quickly pulled apart, hearts racing as they heard her mother's voice calling out, "Evelyn, I'm home." Derek's eyes widened in panic as he stepped back, putting some distance between them. "What do we do?" he hissed, glancing toward the door. "Just act normal," Evelyn replied, trying to keep her composure as her mind raced. "We'll figure this out later." Her mother walked into the room, a grocery bag in hand. "Hey, sweetie. I hope you've been working hard on your studies," she said cheerfully, oblivious to the tension in the air. "Of course, Mom," Evelyn replied, forcing a smile as Derek stood awkwardly by the door, his eyes darting between them. "Derek, how's everything going?" her mother asked, looking over at him with a friendly smile. Good. Just helping Evelyn with her homework," he said, his voice slightly shaky. Her mother nodded, looking pleased. "That's great. I appreciate you two spending time together. You know, family is important." She started unloading groceries, her back turned to them. As soon as she turned her back, Evelyn exchanged a quick glance with Derek, who was still visibly tense. They shared a silent understanding that they couldn't act on their feelings right now, but the thrill of the kiss still lingered in the air. Once her mother was preoccupied, Evelyn whispered, "We need to talk about this later." "Definitely," Derek replied, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "I'll be waiting for you in my room." Evelyn nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. After a few more moments of small talk with her mother, she excused herself, trying to act nonchalant as she made her way down the hall to Derek's room. When she finally stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind her, and the atmosphere shifted instantly. Derek was leaning against his desk, a playful smirk on his face. "You're in trouble now," he teased. Crossing his arms, Evelyn rolled her eyes, trying to suppress her smile. "You're the one who kissed me," she shot back, but her voice was light and teasing. "Only because I couldn't resist," he said, stepping closer until he was right in front of her again. "I've wanted to do that for so long." Evelyn felt a rush of excitement at his words. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now," he said, his voice low and sultry, "we figure out how to be together without getting caught." He leaned down and captured her lips in another passionate kiss, this time deeper and more urgent. Evelyn melted against him, feeling her heart race as their bodies pressed together. They stumbled back against the bed, and Evelyn found herself falling onto the soft mattress. Derek followed her down, his body hovering over hers as he kissed her again, more fervently this time. Evelyn's hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer as the world around them faded away. They lost themselves in each other, exploring the new territory of their relationship. Derek's hands roamed over her sides, tracing the curves of her body, while Evelyn's fingers danced along his back, sending shivers down his spine. "I've never felt like this before," she admitted breathlessly between kisses. "Me neither," he confessed, pausing to look deep into her eyes. "It feels right, doesn't it?" Evelyn nodded, her heart racing as she realized just how much she wanted him. "Yes, it really does." As they kissed again, a sense of urgency began to build between them. Derek's hands slipped beneath her shirt, brushing against her skin, igniting a fire within her. Evelyn gasped, arching her back into his touch as he explored her body, sending waves of pleasure coursing through her. But just as things began to heat up, they both froze at the sound of footsteps outside the door. Panic washed over them as they quickly pulled apart, both breathing heavily. "Evelyn," her mother called out from down the hall. "Is everything okay in there?" Derek's eyes widened in alarm, and he quickly scrambled off the bed. "We have to act normal," he hissed, his heart racing. Evelyn nodded, her pulse pounding in her ears as she straightened her shirt. "I'm fine, Mom," she called back, trying to sound casual. Derek glanced at her, a mixture of excitement and fear in his eyes. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low but full of promise. Once her mother moved on, the tension of the moment dissipated, but the desire between them only grew stronger. They exchanged knowing glances, the thrill of their secret making everything more exhilarating. In the following weeks, they found ways to navigate their newfound relationship. Late-night texts turned into secret meetings in the backyard, stolen kisses behind closed doors, and lingering touches that sent shivers down their spines. Each moment felt like a delicious secret, thrilling and intoxicating. One weekend, Evelyn's mother went out of town for a wedding, leaving her and Derek alone in the house for the first time. The air was thick with anticipation as they settled in for a movie night, the tension between them palpable. As the movie played, Derek leaned closer, his fingers brushing against Evelyn's thigh. "You know, I've been thinking," he said, his voice low and seductive. "About what?" she asked, glancing at him with a playful smile. "About how we could take this to the next level," he said, his eyes darkening with desire. Evelyn's heart raced at the implication. "What do you mean?" He leaned in closer, his lips brushing against her ear. "I mean, we could really explore what we have. No more hiding, just us." The thought sent a thrill of excitement through her. "Are you sure about this? What if someone finds out?" she asked, her heart racing. Derek smiled, his gaze intense. "I want you, Evelyn. I'm willing to take the risk if you are." Evelyn felt her resolve waver. She wanted him too, more than anything. "Okay," she said breathlessly, feeling a rush of excitement. As the credits rolled, they both leaned in, their lips crashing together in a passionate kiss. It quickly escalated, and before long, they were tangled together on the couch, hands exploring and bodies pressed tightly together. Derek's hands slid beneath her shirt, brushing against her skin, and Evelyn gasped at the sensation. "Are you sure?" he asked, looking into her eyes, searching for any hesitation. "Yes," she breathed, feeling the heat radiate between them. With that, they moved to the bedroom, the thrill of secrecy and passion igniting their every touch. As they fell onto the bed, the world outside faded away, and all that mattered was the connection they shared. Hours later, they lay entwined in each other's arms, the room filled with a comfortable silence. Evelyn smiled, feeling safe and cherished in Derek's embrace. "I can't believe we did that," she said softly, her heart swelling with happiness. Derek chuckled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Neither can I, but it felt amazing." Evelyn nodded, her heart racing as she recalled the intensity of their passion. "It was everything I hoped it would be." They spent the rest of the weekend exploring each other, both emotionally and physically, their connection growing deeper with every touch and shared secret.